Okay, try to turn it over. Stop. Yeah, it may be a little starved out, or it may not like the fuel that it's getting, since it's probably super old. Okay, go ahead and try to start it. Okay. Overall, pretty good. Pretty good. So one thing that you might, well, you probably won't be able, but I know you couldn't tell just by looking at this camera, but, well, now it's starting to fill back up down there. I don't know if you can see it, but I think we're out of gas. Either that or the fuel pump doesn't work that well. Could be both. But that fuel filter was completely dry while we were running. You could see me milking it with the water bottle full of fuel right up top here. And we did have a big leak. I mean, you know, define big, but coming from right there where the fuel line goes into the carb. So we got that to take care of. But that shouldn't be too difficult. Otherwise, it sounded really good. No valve train noise. Yeah, just our little fuel issue there. No leaks to the floor, so that's good. We may throw some fresh gas in the tank, but that fuel doesn't look too bad, to be honest. We got to fix this leak, and probably rambling. So I think that's it for the first start. Now I gotta get the alternator and the fan belt hooked back up. Once I get some bolts, we'll check the oil. Overall, pretty good. Pretty happy with it. I thought it was gonna start fairly easily, to be honest, but I'm going to put the fan, shroud, and fan and pulley for the alternator and water pump back on now. And in case anyone's wondering, went to Home Depot. They are 5/16 by 24 for the thread pitch, and I grabbed 2.5 inches long. You may have a different fan. Mine is this kind of like flex fan, and it's got a really long deal on the end of it for the mounting side. So that's why I got these 2.5 inch long ones. Otherwise, you probably don't need something this long. So in case anyone was wondering, that's what that is. I gotta go get the fan. But otherwise, I did chase all these threads in here. I don't have a 5/16 tap by 24. I just put the bolts in all the way through, made sure they were clean, backed them out, and then cleaned them off with a little wire brush. So now we're gonna put that back together. I added 5 gallons in the tank, and we'll go back to cranking it over. Okay. That's lined up. A little tip here. I drew a line with a silver Sharpie on the front of the pulley shaft and then on the pulley. Because I'm going to back this bolt out now, I need to put the fan on, and then I want to make sure I don't rotate the pulley so that it doesn't line up with the plate on the front of the water pump. So that's what those marks are there for. Makes it a little bit easier. Gonna tighten up the alternator belt now. Got the fan and everything back in place. Don't want to go too tight on this guy, because the belt is pretty worn. That's what I figured those holes were always for in the bracket, but I don't know. Yeah, should be all right for now. That belt looks okay. Tighten that up. The one on the bottom is a 9/16. Enough. Okay. Belt's good. Now I'm going to work on this fuel leak here. So I had a fuel leak where the OEM line goes right into the carburetor on the front here. I'm going to take apart both connections. I'm going to wrap the threads in Teflon tape, and then I'm going to put them back together. I don't know that Teflon tape is really going to hurt anything or be good or bad for it. So that's just what I'm going to do. I am going to use a turkey baster, grab out all the fluid from the master cylinder, most likely, if it looks black in there, and then just put some new fluid in there. I'm not going to bleed anything. Just swap out the fluid, and then we should be good to go here. I sprayed penetrating fluid in the back there on that fuel line. Check this out. I just got done taking apart the lines, and this is what I pulled out of the carb. So the spring goes in like this, and then there's this guy, and then the factory hard line went into this. So factory hard line from the tank into here, and then this into the carb. Now, I don't know, but I think this is a filter. I think it's a fuel filter. Don't exactly know what it is or how it works or how well it works, but I think this is a fuel filter. I'll look into it more, but that would make sense, and I have seen them in this location before. So I'm going to clean all this off. I'll probably soak this in some gasoline just to hopefully maybe clean it up if there's any varnish on it. I don't know what color it's supposed to be. It's copper right now. And we'll throw it back together and then get moving. Update. It is a fuel filter. It says filter right on the side of the carburetor right there. So, case closed. We're gonna set that guy right back in there. It's got a little cone on the inside of it. You want just the hole facing away from the carburetor and the cone facing towards the carb. At least that's the way it came out for me. So, that's how I'm gonna put it back in. Wrap these with Teflon tape and then get back to it. I cleaned off the threads, cleaned them out with carb cleaner, and took off the old Teflon tape. When you're wrapping Teflon tape, make sure you pretend you're actually threading it in with your hand. You don't want to wrap the tape this way. You want to wrap it basically this way, going that way. So when you're tightening it righty-tighty, the tape is going with the tear of the tape. If you wrap the tape around it clockwise, when you turn it righty-tighty, it's just going to pull the tape off and end up bunching it up. So make sure you wrap the tape the proper way. We are going counterclockwise with our Teflon tape. Cool, just like that. My back is on fire already. I apologize if the bracket is in the way, but I did the best that I could. Let's see what's in here. The brakes do stop the car when we're pushing it around, so. A little crusty. That's not terrible. It's a little dark, but like everything else on this car, not terrible at all. So we'll just turkey baster all that out, pour in new fluid, and that should be good. Fire in the hole. Fire in your hole. So that one's no starter fluid. It's gonna start. I have no idea how it stayed running that long. Because as I was trying to show you guys down there, that fuel filter, the clear inline one, there's nothing there. It was completely empty. You saw it, and now it's starting to fill back up as it sits there. So I don't know. Fuel pump could be no good. Those lines could be kinked. That could be causing some problems. I don't know. So we'll see. But that fuel looks okay. It doesn't look too bad. I've got 5 new fresh gallons in there, so I may pull that guy out, the inline fuel filter. And just to eliminate the whole fact that there was kinks. No more leaks in my fuel line right there. You can see the Teflon tape, so that's good. Otherwise, pretty good. We just got to get it to get fuel, and then we can go on a drive. Now I'm going to replace the fuel pump. It is right down there. It's that guy. You can see it. There's 2 bolts on the side of it that hold it in. I'm gonna remove all of the fuel lines attached to it first. One of them is a 3/8 send line coming from the tank. One of them is a 5/16, actually it's a 1/4 return line. And then the other one is an actual metal line that goes into the back side of this fuel pump and comes up to the carburetor right there. So that one, I think it was a 5/8 for the nut, at least on the top side by the carb it was. I'm gonna just disconnect all the lines, then I'm gonna take out the 2 nuts holding it on, or bolts holding it on each side. They look like 1/2, but they might be different. And then I'll go from there. Here's where we're at underneath. That's the return line, that's a 1/4. That's the send, that's 3/8. That is to the carb, that's unthreaded, it's a 5/8 bolt. Line wrench is best for that guy. Now I just got to remove the actual fuel pump. Those bolts on the side of it that hold it on, they are 7/16, not 1/2. And just for reference, this is what the fuel pump is doing. Let me take it out of here for you. Okay. Here's what the fuel pump is doing in the car. It's basically bolted in like this on the passenger side of the Camaro. And this line runs up into the carb, up that way, and then these two return lines are over there. Here are the bolts. They go through these little holes here, and they're 7/16. So I'm using a wobble socket to take that out. So let me see if I can explain what I'm trying to say here. This is the one I just pulled out of the car. This seems like the spot. So it goes into the engine like this, right? And you see this little lever. Oh, it's dripping gas all over me. Make it stop. Goes into there. I'll show you in the car, but coming off of, I think it's the crankshaft, to be honest, there's like a little cam or a lever. It's basically the size of my finger and it's silver. And you can see this little hump right here. It sits right in there. And it's basically gonna push this guy in and out to pump the diaphragm inside this thing. And you wanna make sure that cam is basically positioned like this. And when I pulled this out, I watched it slide down. So you've gotta get the thing to basically stick back up, and then you put your fuel pump in, and then it kind of slides back down onto the fuel pump. If you just pull it out, gravity's gonna stick that, or gonna let that little gear, cam, or dowel slide all the way down. And then you'll be installing the fuel pump like this, and it's not gonna actually move when the crankshaft pushes that cam. This needs to be like this. So, other than that, pretty straightforward. I believe it says in the factory service manual, it says you're leaking. It says you're supposed to cover that dowel or that cam in heavy duty grease and stick it back up in there, and it should stick. If that works for you, give that a shot. Otherwise, you gotta use like a flathead screwdriver. Let me take you in there now and show you what I'm talking about. Wipe my hands off a bit before I take you guys off of here. We're losing light, so I'm gonna have to shut the garage, but okay. You see it in there, right down in there. It's that little shiny silver thing. That's that gear or that cam dowel. It needs to basically be pushed back up. It needs to go in the engine when you set the fuel pump in there. And you can see some other gasket material that someone's left on there. I'll go ahead and clean that all off now, and then I will work on installing the fuel pump. I'm trying to get you guys a good angle, but I'm not gonna be able to rest the camera anywhere. So this is a little magnet, basically. The grease didn't work. It was not strong enough. I'm hoping that that guy down there, it is magnetic, so hopefully you can see me picking it up with this thing. I'm gonna either have to pick it up with the pliers again, or a screwdriver or whatnot, and hold it with the magnet, but I'm basically holding that thing up in the up position while I then slip the fuel pump down in there, and then I'll let it rest on top of this little gear. So I'm gonna do that now, but I can't, there's no way to get the camera in there, unfortunately. Something I wanna show you here, trying to get the focus better. If you notice down there, my rod for the fuel pump, that's being held up, and there's a nut on the back side of it that I just put in. That's the same threads that hold in your fuel pump. I just had a spare bolt. You can thread it into basically a female side of threads on the front side of the engine. That goes all the way in and pinches that rod there. So that's gonna hold it in there while I try to install this fuel pump. Then we can back that bolt out and allow the rod to actuate again. So just a tip.